Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham, right? And I've been to 114 countries, and I've been living abroad for 26 years, traveling. I stay in each country for 2 or 3 months at least, or something like that. Okay, yesterday, June 20th, 2024, was the first day of summer. Okay, so a lot of people, all they talk about is the weather. I don't hardly ever talk about the weather because I can't change it. What I can't change, I barely discuss. Okay, but everybody's concerned about the weather and they're worried about the climate. But the weather changes daily and the climate changes over a course of 500 years. So I'm not a big believer in climate change, although I do think it's a good idea that everybody's worried about it because they become, I don't know what you want to call it, more careful about their pollution. Okay, I'm going to explain to you right now the tropics. Okay, people go tropical, but they don't really know what it is. They want to go to Florida, they want to go to California, they want to go to different areas. Like California has a lot of cold water flowing over the southern beaches. Okay, so there's different things. Like I was in Barcelona, Spain for a month, and the winds coming off of Africa, coming into Barcelona, which is like 42 degrees latitude above the equator. The same as Indiana, where I lived, but it had palm trees. So, you never can trust climate. So climate changes according to these winds. It changes to the elevation. It changes a lot of things. Okay, so if you truly want perfect climate, it's very difficult to understand because of the dynamic nature of climate. Okay, so elevation, the higher you go up in the air, the cooler it is. But the first thing you got to get figured out is spring, summer, and fall, and all these different seasons and how they work. And like when you're south of the equator in South America, what it would be in the spring here, okay, or the first day of summer is the first day of winter there right now. So right now, 23 and a half degrees south of the equator in South America, it's freezing, okay, or pretty cold. Okay, now there's two different areas here. There's the tropics. It's like I'm at right now about 42 degrees above the equator. I grew up in Orland, Indiana, and I know this has 4 seasons, right? 4 distinct seasons. So it's really nice to have 4 seasons. On the other side is I'm only going to return in kind of the spring or the fall, and most of the time stay away from the hardcore heat of summer. And it's a lot hotter here than it is in Africa because of the humidity. Okay, but right now I'm going to try to show you this map. Trying to do it. I had to draw it on I'm in a library. They didn't have one of them whiteboards, and I guess I don't really have one of the markers with me right now. But here, let me switch. Okay, for these kids, they've got chalk. Might as well show you what the chalk is. Where's it at? Nice big chalk. Okay, so what happens is that where that says equator in the middle, that's the equator right there. So this is the Earth, and what the sun does is it rotates around the Earth all the time, right? And it moves up and down. So in the northern hemisphere, which would be, I should have drawn it on there. This would be the north. South. Okay, so in the north, where most of the United States is located, 23 and a half degrees, I suppose that's right around, maybe, I'm not sure exactly where it hits, but I'm at 43 degrees, which is double the 23 and a half, right? So it's colder. But the sun is at the highest peak on the first day of summer. So the first day of summer is at the top, and it's called the summer solstice. When it gets at the middle, it's called the equinox, and then it'd be, I guess, the winter solstice, probably. I don't know. Doesn't matter, really, but 23 and a half degrees above and 23 and a half degrees below is the tropics. Okay, then you have kind of these temperate zones, which are like, I don't know, Arizona and Florida. But you got the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. But what you want to know is I'm a tropical, I travel most of the time in the tropics. For the last 26 years, most of my time has been in the tropics. But what I also do is I make a mountain. I get up on a mountain. So if I can get up on a mountain far enough where it's 5,000 feet above in the elevation, you're at the perfect climate. Okay, so if you go up a mountain right here, climb on the mountain, you get up to about 5,000 feet, it's the perfect climate. If you keep going up, it's going to start to get cold. So like Bolivia, La Paz, Bolivia is, I don't know, say 7,500 feet. It's pretty cold there all the time, even though you're in the tropics, in the hottest area. You can see the sun's going from that lower line to the topper line. It's just rotating around the planet, just going up and down. And so climate, when people tell me the climate's getting hotter, they don't really understand. They're just talking about the weather, okay? You can't really blame anything on one day of weather. That means nothing. 1 year of weather doesn't mean nothing. Maybe 100 years of weather may mean something. But really, it's more and more like a 5,000-year cycle, maybe. But most of this climate change stuff is a lack of understanding. It's just a fearful way of making the government give money to these energy companies so they can have the government pay for their research. But okay, so you go up in the mountains. So I was just in Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia, and I was at 5,000 feet, a little bit lower than that. And then I was in Guatemala, Lake Atalan, at 5,000 feet. And according to the winds, okay, this is not that simple. Okay, so what you want to do to get the optimum climate, you have to really take into a lot of variables, and you can't trust anybody anymore, okay? Because anybody that starts to figure out that you're living in kind of like a never-ending spring climate will lie, okay? 95% of travel well, how do you know a travel site or a travel video or a person making YouTube videos is lying? His or her mouth is moving. Okay, very few people tell the truth on travel because they want to get everybody to like them. I don't care if you like them, and I really like you, stay home, okay? If you really want to be a good ecological traveler, stay home, don't travel. You're not being an ecological traveler by traveling, or a cultural traveler. Actually, you're destroying the world, okay? But I'm Andy Lee Graham, so what happens is there's different influences, like in the Mediterranean over in Europe, the winds come off of Africa and cool off the Mediterranean. Okay, then you got these high winds that go above the earth, and then you have different waves and stuff. There's different areas where the ocean moves around. So like Southern California, as far as I know, is always cold. Okay, when I was in Mancora Beach surfing in, what was it? I think it's in northern Peru, maybe southern Ecuador. I'm not really positive. I've gone to almost all the surf beaches because that's normally where the beautiful girls are at. I don't really have any use for the Caribbean. It's full of old people. Okay. But I go to all the beaches wherever I'm at, trying to figure out if there's anything good about the beach. Okay, so the water here and the bug situation, like there's a lot of bugs and a lot more than there is in Africa. Okay, even though they have malaria in Africa, we used to have malaria in Indiana and all of the United States until 1950s when the broadcast system got rid of it. But there's variables, okay, and it's really absolutely hard to understand all the variables about moving to a climate. So if you're going to go and if you're going to go retire abroad, please don't buy a house, okay? Don't buy a house until you've been there about 3 or 4 years because you don't even know where you're at. You don't know what language you're speaking. You don't know what climate you are. You don't know what culture you're in. It's not that simple. But if you're living in air conditioning, in my opinion, you're poor. If you're living in gas-forced air furnaces, you're poor. you can live your whole life without having to breathe conditioned air, okay? I very seldom breathe conditioned air, and I'm not going to live in the United States in a city really for long. I might go there for a visit, but I'm not going to stay anywhere longer than about, 30 days in a polluted place bigger than 10,000 people. Human density is the biggest problem on the United States. And it's like all the lemons go to the same place and they all park it in the same place. They all go to the worst possible climates and the worst possible conditions. And I have no clue. Like New York City is horrible, Oregon, San Francisco's horrible. These are the assholes of our country, okay? Chicago, Miami, these are the asshole of the countries, the worst culture, the worst climate, the worst breathing, the worst pollution. Almost everything is bad in a big city. The bigger the city, the bigger the problems. Okay, but first of all, wouldn't you like to have a place where the climate's good? So like my brother was talking the other day. He lives close to Lansing, Michigan, which is pretty cold, but he lives outside it and about a 10-minute drive to it. And this is the optimization of your life. To optimize your life, you have to choose your battles, okay? So choose your climate, and climate change is little effect on this. But if you want to know how to figure out the first level of climate, go to Google and do a search for climate data, like climate data Fort Wayne, Indiana. It'll tell you the number of rain days. It'll give you all 12 months, and you can find the literal climate data. And if nothing else, you might choose the right time to go on vacation. Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham. Any of you actually thinking about moving abroad, you ought to become a Patreon, because you could have talks with me and discuss all your options and save a bunch of really painful experiences because you're following the lemons. See, everybody follows everybody, and they don't really choose what is good for them. They act like everybody likes the same thing. One person's heaven is another person's hell. That keeps us from all going to the same location. Okay, become a Patreon if you want to, talk to me and have discussions, because I'm one of the few travel writers, travel philosophers, or somebody that just don't care. I don't really want you to leave the United States. I want you to work in your job till the day you die. That's the ideal situation for me.